Well, we got a mama cat over here. She stole it a minute ago, but I'm going to try to see what I could do. I've done sewed them two, so it's time to start doing something different now. Alright, let's see what we can do. If Mama Cat would move. You're gonna have to move, Mama Cat. Come on now.
Look at that blocking this thing. Yeah, we can see her. We can't see you.
I know it, Mama Cat's in the way.
Now we can Cadence. But I can't turn away and you sing.
Oh, yeah. Alright. So now we have... No, come on, please. Let me get some of this out of the way. Take up your spot, Mama Cat, because you're
Oh, I see her face.
Alright, come on. Move, Mama Cat.
I can't because her so cat. I see the time.
Alrighty.
2, 1,
Oh, come
2, 3, 4,
on.
5, 6, 7,
Alright.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Alright. Alright, that's enough. Move. Move.
I can't because her so.
Oh, come on now, Mama Cat. There you go. Get on out of the way.
Alright,
We're going to get on this side and we're going to try to finish this side up, and then we're going to come down here to this side and work on it. Hopefully we can.
you have hoop seasons. You have those hoops because you have to
No,
button.
I don't think Mama Cat's going to let me do it.
Yeah, because it's like, no, don't give me. I'm trying to defeat.
Yeah, I don't think she's going to let me.
Yeah, because how you two do?
Alrighty, I'm going to quit.
Is this
This ain't working.
Yeah.
Alright, let's see if we can talk now and do. Now, on this end, I had to take and pull this way, and I put 3 pins in here to make it give me my space that I need to sew. So we're going to start sewing these down, and I want to make sure the back is leveled out, not bunched up or anything. So each time I do it, I have to make sure that it is not messed up. So, and I want to go to the inside and work my way out, and then I can take these pins out after I get this one done. Oh, I wish I would quit snotting so bad and feeling so bad. But hopefully we can get this right here done. Mama Cat ain't here. The kids ain't here. It's hard to do anything around them youngins because they want to talk into the video all the time, which makes it, I have to cut it, turn it down, cut it, turn it down. That's not that great. But we can work with it.
Everybody, and welcome once again to the Midnight Ride. As always, it's my great honor to welcome each and every one of you into the Puritan Barn once again for the Midnight Ride with myself and John Pounders. Tonight, the resurrection of the old gods, certainly a timely message for this time of year, and a timely message for those who are fast asleep in the bowels of idolatry. So get ready. It all starts right now because we are now
Live. What's up, guys? It's so good to be here once again with you guys on a Saturday night, man. This subject right here is one that really a lot of people have taken into their lives, and it's created so much confusion, so much sorrow. All these different things are associated with some of these things we're going to be talking about tonight. So this, we don't take this lightly. These are things that we want to discuss, and we want to prove to be either true or false, and we want to look at the sources and see what we can find about these things. Christmas, either it is in fact comes from the pagan practices, or that it does not, because this is a point of contention for many believers around the world. This is a point of contention for, it has been a point of contention in the past, and it continues at this point that we're in right now in 2022. So I want to start out by reading a verse, because the main thing we want to do in all of this is figure out, are we breaking the commandments of God? Are we dishonoring God? Are we doing something we're not supposed to be doing? And so this verse kind of lines it out about how we should look at this. So in Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 28 through 31, it says, "Observe and hear all these words which I command thee, that it may go well with thee, and with thy children after thee forever, when thou dost that which is good and right in the sight of the Lord thy God. When the Lord thy God shall cut off the nations from before thee, whither thou goest to possess them, and thou succeedest them and dwellest in their land, take heed to thyself that thou be not snared by following them, after that they be destroyed from before thee, and that thou inquire not after their gods, saying, How did these nations serve their gods? Even so will I do likewise. Thou shalt not do so unto the Lord thy God. For," and this is the really important part here, "for every abomination to the Lord which he hateth have they done unto their gods. For even their sons and their daughters they have burnt in the fire to their gods." Now, this is one of those verses that, it strikes you. It's like, okay, so we shouldn't worship God the way that the heathen worship their gods. Now, here's another verse. This is Deuteronomy 12. This is how it starts out. It says, "These are the statutes and judgments which ye shall observe to do in the land which the Lord God of thy fathers giveth thee to possess it, all the days that ye live upon the earth. Ye shall utterly destroy all the places wherein the nations which ye shall possess serve their gods, upon the high mountains and upon the hills and under every green tree. And ye shall overthrow their altars and break their pillars and burn their groves with fire. And ye shall hew down the graven images of their gods and destroy the names of them out of that place. Ye shall not do so unto the Lord your God." So some very stern warnings from God. Now, if we look at the America that we're in, I think it's no surprise to you guys that this once was a pagan nation, right? We have the temples, we have the pyramids, we have the mounds, we have evidence that at one time there was pagan worship going on in the country that we're living in now. And even America's even named the land of the plumed serpent. That's actually what America means, according to Manly P. Hall and others. So this is something that we need to figure out. What is Deuteronomy talking about? What are the practices that God warns against in Deuteronomy? And David, do you have anything you would like to add to that before I get this book? And
Well, there's so much scripture. I could add this one more here in Leviticus.
okay,
And of course, what a lot of people do, they read Leviticus and Deuteronomy like it's going to expire, that it's gone. So that has no validity in their mind. But in Leviticus 18:26, "Ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, and shall not commit any of these abominations, neither any of your own nation, nor any stranger that sojourneth among you. For all these abominations have the men of the land done which were before you, and the land is defiled. That the land spew you not out also when ye defile it, as it spewed out the nations that were before you. For whosoever shall commit any of these abominations, even the souls that commit them shall be cut off from among the people. Therefore shall ye keep mine ordinance, that ye commit not any of these abominable customs." Now let's just preface that the committing, practicing pagan customs is forbidden in the Torah with being cut off. That word cut off. Look that up a few places. But in Deuteronomy, or in Jeremiah 10, thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, be not dismayed at the signs of the heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them, for the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workman with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. That is a pagan custom. We are forbidden by God's law to partake in pagan customs. And it's amazing. And of course, a lot of the evangelical church, they just throw the law out, so it means nothing to them. But it's amazing, there's even a lot of people that are in the Hebrew root, Messianic, sacred name, whatever, and they're trying to say the celebration of Christmas is okay. That's just totally nonsensical and just totally upside down.
I think a lot of it has to do, too, with the fact that there's a push towards coming back to the Catholic Church and coming back to the Orthodox Church.
Oh, yeah.
In a way that we haven't ever seen before. This book that I want to talk about here, I'm going to read some stuff out of this book. This is called The Worship of the Dead, and it's by Colonel James Frazier. And this book right here is actually a really, really good book. A lot of good resources on here, quotes many different books on this. And the reason that I want to bring this book out first is so that we can get a grasp on the reality of what we're dealing with here when we say the way of the heathen, the way of the pagans, right? When we say that, what does that even mean? And I think this book does a really good job of putting that together for us in a way. And so I just want to read a few passages out of this that I have in my notes. And there's so much more in this book. I definitely, I think it's, as far as scholarly work, I think the guy did a really good job. It says, there are some modern writers who have represented the various religious superstitions and idolatries of different nations as being the spontaneous invention of each race and the natural and uniform outcome of human nature in the state of barbarism. This is not the case. The theory is wholly opposed to the conclusion of those who have most fully studied the subject. Egyptians, Chaldeans, Phoenicians, Greeks, Romans, Hindus, Buddhists, Chinese, Tibetans, Goths, Anglo-Saxons, Druids, Mexicans, and Peruvians, the Aborigines, the Australians, and even the savages of South Sea Islands must have all derived their religion ideas from a common source and a common center. Everywhere we find the most startling coincidences in rites, ceremonies, customs, traditions, and in the names and relations of the respective gods and goddesses. And he goes on in this book to talk a little bit more about, a lot more actually, about how that works and why that works. So I'm going to go here to page 13. That was in page 1, by the way, on this book. And in page 13 it says, starting in page 12, it says, it has been concluded by those who have studied the subject that the gods best known among the ancient Greeks, Romans, Egyptians, and Babylonians, such as Kronos, Saturn, Bel, Thoth, Hermes, Bacchus, Mercury, Osiris, Dionysus, Themis, Apollo, Horus, Mars, Hercules, and Jupiter are all one and the same God, each being the separate deification of him under different aspects and attributes. And Mr. Farber quote the statement of multitude of ancient pagans and mythological writers to this effect, that all gods are ultimately one and the same person. But a close examination shows that though the Father and the Son are, as explained, constantly confused with each other, yet they may generally recognize as two distinct persons related to each other as Father and Son, as Mage and Conqueror, and as Counselor and Great King, while some, as Apollo and Horus, are more distinctive, the titles of the supposed incarnation of the Son. The great goddess, however, is always one, and for this reason was called Dia Myronesis, the goddess with 10,000 names. And so you have, in this book, he goes on to talk about how all of these gods play into each other. David actually did a show about Cush being Saturn, and it's really interesting because Cush is not only Saturn, but he's also the sun god, right, in Egypt. He's Ra. He's all of these different deities because ancestor worship is the main focal point of this.
Alrighty, I have those other two done. So now we are going to work. This one's done, this one's done, this one's done. So now we're going to work on the other 4 that's up here. We want to work in the middle. We do not want to work on the side working this way because we don't want no bubbles in the middle. So what we want to do is start with these right here, and we can either go out this way or we can go this way. Alright, we'll be back. Well, it looks like she has to have part in the child's play too. She is sitting in the box. I think that's funny.
Particular holiday that we're talking about tonight.
Yeah.
Go ahead, David. Do you want to have anything to say?
Well, this is a basic understanding, like when Mr. Garnier begins his book, and we've talked about this so much. When you understand that there's little difference between the Babylonian, Assyrian, Egyptian, Greek, Roman mysteries, they're all telling the same story. The goddess in each has a different name, but it's all the same dying god that is died and resurrected at the equinox and the solstices. And this mystery religion is Mystery Babylon. It has a common origin. Like Mr. Garnier said, it doesn't evolve differently in different places. The names are different, the stories vary, but it's all the same thing. It is the god that is worshipped at what Christians call Christmas and Easter.
And interestingly enough, I'm going to read another portion here it's really interesting. This puts Shem, Ham, and Japheth in Hindu mythologies as well. This is really interesting. So, the most ancient portion of the Sibylline oracles, the authority of which as an historic record was appealed to both the pagans and early Christians apologists in their controversies, speak of Kronos, Japetus, and Titan as the three sons of the patriarch Noah. Here again come Kronos is Ham, and Japetus is Japheth, and Titan is clearly Shem, and all were regarded as gods. Similarly, in Hindu mythology, Sama or Chama and Prajapati are said to be born of Minu, and to be the human names of the gods Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahma. Prajapati, let me change this, means the Lord Japhet, and the final A in the Sama and Chama being clear that Chama is the only form of Kam or Kim, and the Egyptians' name of Ham, and the Sama is Shem, and the Greek form of Shem. So this is interesting. So this is before all of the gods, pre all the Hindu extra gods were added, but these were the three main gods of Hinduism as well. And you find also here, and this is both scriptures and profane historians agree in attributing the origin of pagan systems to Babylon and Assyria. And there's the strongest evidence to prove that the first origins of the gods were the founders of Babylonian, or the first great empire of the world, Cush and his son Nimrod. Now, in that show, you talked about Cush founding empires and his Nimrod kind of getting it all together. And this is exactly what they're saying in this book as well. And anywhere we see father and son, we have this relationship of, all the way going back to the Assyrian, right? And this is, it's really kind of mind-blowing to me. There's another passage that I can do here that I think that is important to kind of just think about here. So it says, the classical writers in the centuries immediately preceding the Christian era speak of Cephas, the son of Balu, as the first of the Ethiopian or Cushite. And Cephas, they say, was after his death placed among the stars that is worshipped as God. This shows that it was the general belief of the civilized world at that time that the father of the king of the Cushite race, who's under Nimrod were the founders of Babylonian Empire, was the human original of the Babylonian god Belus, and that both he and his son were deified after death. The inscriptions show that there were two god kings in the name of Belus, the first of whom is called Sir H. Rawlinson, Bel Nimrod the Lesser, and it was his son, the second Belus or Bel Nimrod, who was by far the most important person in the Babylonian worship, and who, as we shall see, is especially identified with Nimrod. This would make his father the first Belus to be Cush. Nimrod was the first king of the Babylonian Empire, the first who began to be mighty on the earth, but it would appear that his father Cush has previously been the ringleader in an attempt to build the Tower of Babel, and was the first founder of the city, which was commenced at the same time, and therefore recognized as the dynastic list of the first king under the name Bel or Balu. Now, it's no coincidence in the Bible that Baal is the constant source of struggle for God and or God's people. They're always going to Baal. They're always worshiping the Baal. They're always going back to it. It never ends, right? Even the Phoenician kings, they set up with them during the time of Solomon. I mean, you have so many mixtures of these things happening over and over and over again that to this day, it's hard to distinguish the difference in the children of Israel and the children of the temple of Satan, right? It's really hard.
Yeah, you can't. And always it's been this very element of the mixing and the mingling. This is what it's all over our Bibles in the Old Testament, and it's all over the history of the entire movement. It's the mingling and their desire to add in paganism with the things of God.
It's so true. And so we're going to start out with what in my opinion is the biggest excuse that people make about celebrating Christmas. They say that I'm doing it for the birth of Jesus. Now, unfortunately, and I know that people love Christmas and this, and I get the feeling that I remember the feeling, right? I haven't celebrated Christmas in nearly 15 years, but I remember the feeling of celebrating it and being a kid and all of the good things that came along with it. So this is a touchy thing, but literally everything, unfortunately, about Christmas comes from pagan practices. Everything, even the birth of Jesus, and you'll see this how not necessarily Jesus, but the birth of the Son or Son. So this is what we're going to talk about here. So we're going to start with that, and we're going to go on with other things because I think if people even get to this part of the video, they can kind of understand where we're coming from and why we refuse to celebrate the birth of Jesus on December 25th. And we're going to read some more here from the Golden Bough. And the Golden Bough, David, while I get this book out, if you don't mind, can you give a little bit of back history to the book, The Golden Bough?
Well, Sir James Fraser was an Oxford scholar, and it is the definitive scholarly work on the mystery religions. It's not an occult book. It's not a Christian book. It's an academic book with hardcore research and historical verification. And there's no book that is more thorough than the Golden Bough. That's just the way it is. It is the authoritative book on the study of these mystery religions.
So it sure is, and this is one reason I'm using it now. So some of the common arguments that I've heard from these Hebrew roots pastors like David's speaking of is that there are no other resources outside of Hislop, which wrote Two Babylons. Now, I'm not using any Hislop tonight, okay? We're using other sources. The Golden Bough gives their resources as well, and none of them are Hislop in this book, okay? So we're going to go through these. Anyway, what this book does is it goes through almost every single civilization and shows the rituals that they do in these civilizations and it tells you exactly what was done in those times and what the heathens did in certain parts of the world. And it's amazingly how much Christmas lines up with these pagan days. So we're going to talk about first the December 25th, the worship of the sun. And so in the Julian calendar, the 25th of December was reckoned the winter solstice, and it was regarded as the nativity of the sun because the day begins to lengthen and the power of the sun to increase from that turning point of the year. The ritual of the nativity, as it appears to have been celebrated in Syria and Egypt, was remarkable. The celebrants retired into certain inner shrines from which at midnight they issue with a loud cry, "The Virgin has brought forth, the light is waxing." The Egyptians even represented the newborn sun by the image of an infant, which on his birthday, the winter solstice, they brought forth and exhibited to his worshippers. No doubt the Virgin who thus conceived and bore a son on the 25th of December was the great Oriental goddess, whom the Semites called the Heavenly Virgin, or simply the Heavenly Goddess in Semitic lands. She was the form of Astarte. Now Mithra was regularly identified by his worshippers with Sun and Unconquered Sun, as they called him. Hence his nativity also fell on the 25th of December. The Gospels say nothing as to the day of Christ's birth, and accordingly the early church did not celebrate it. It goes on to talk about Antioch, and it wasn't even introduced till about 375 AD. And David's got some passages on stuff on that here in a minute. I'm going to read this paragraph here. It says, "What considerations led the ecclesiastical authorities to institute the festival of Christmas? The motives for the innovation are stated with great frankness by a Syrian writer, himself a Christian. The reason, he tells us, why the fathers transferred the celebration of the 6th of January to the 25th of December was this. It was a custom of the heathen to celebrate on the same 25th of December, the birthday of the sun, in which they kindled lights in token of festivities in these solemnities and festivals, and Christians also took part. And so they go on to talk about the heathen origins of Christmas and all of that in this book, but this is, in reference to this is really interesting because this is some of the church father references. And David, did you have something you wanted to add to that? Because I know you went and got some church father history.
Well, I could read those now if you'd like.
Yeah, that would be great if you don't mind.
It shouldn't even have to be said, but I guess it does, that the mingling in of rabbis that reject Christ, it is so clear scripturally that to deny that Jesus Christ come in the flesh is the spirit of Antichrist. This is Judaism. And when you take the teachings of unregenerate rabbis and you mix it with the Word of God, you get the mingling.
Yeah.
Now, it was the apostate Jews, we can read in our Bible, they did the mingling then. The mingling was going on at the time of Christ. The mingling goes on. And it's amazing that you can say you believe in Torah, which clearly forbids idolatry, and then you can rationalize to where you justify it. But there's Puritan bashing going on. There's some Puritan bashing going on out there, and boy, that gets me agitated. But one thing that's being said in the defense of the celebration of Christmas is that nobody ever objected to it before the Puritans. Well, that's porky. That's porky. Let's go to the 2nd century. And let's read just a bit from Tertullian. He says, and this is on page 68 of the Ante-Nicene Fathers, volume 3, and he says this, in this place must be handled the subject of holidays and other extraordinary solemnities which we accord sometimes to our wantonness, sometimes to our timidity, in opposition to the common faith and discipline. The first point indeed on which I shall join issue is this, whether a servant of God ought to share with the very nations themselves in matters of this kind, either in dress or in food or in any other kind of their gladness. There is naught of communion between light and darkness, between life and death. And he says on page 694, and you don't have to strain to get what the man is saying. He said, you have no occasion to look on strange, you have no occasion to look on strange gods. You do not run against their images. You have no part in heathen holidays, even by more bodily mingling in them. So, it's just straight up, and I could bring, I just grabbed these just quick, many of the early, we're talking about before the Council of Nicaea, they talked about the Saturnalia, and the Saturnalia was big during the time of the Ante-Nicene Church, and every Christian, the Christians were being martyred in the Colosseum at Rome, and during the Saturnalia, every Christian martyred in the Colosseum was a human sacrifice under that pagan deity. Yeah. They knew what it was. Yeah. And so, don't be fooled by lies, because that's what these things are. They're lies. They're porkies. Yeah,
and I feel like the gall to mix up, to literally replace an already December 25th day of a sun god that they even represented an infant, to replace that with Jesus himself, I feel like is so stepping way above over boundaries that we should step on as humans, especially when God says that you shall not have no gods before my face.
Yeah. It's totally satanic. And the Bible says, and Jesus himself said, that we are to worship in spirit and in truth.
Yeah.
Not in lies and stuff you make up.
Right.